After a jet-lagged breakfast at a Turkish deli, it was time to go see what London was all about. Crowded, noisy, and expensive, and people taking movies of everything everywhere. I wonder what this guy's filming.
Jesus Christ as the authority, amen, over all creation, and he commands something to cease, and it shall cease, amen.
Well, perhaps not. Perhaps he was capturing some of the more beautiful people along the Buckingham Palace walk. But we'd seen these things before, so it was time to see something new with a walk down the edge of Green Park with lots of monuments to places they colonized and lots of monuments to wars that they won. Well, we were on our way to Hyde Park. We were looking for the soapbox. I had a message to deliver. But the question was, would I be using the correct medium? Look at this guy with a camera, Mary.
Yeah.
He's pointing at us. What's he doing? What's he doing?
He's interviewing us. And look at, there's a microphone over
Microphone?
here.
Miss Vlad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vlad? Yeah.
And he's the same age as Rosie.
He's making a movie that we'll never see, and I'm making a movie that they'll never see.
Yeah.
Here I am in Hyde Park. There's no soapbox. They lied. Terribly disappointed. Well, we made it to the Marble Arch, and it's not a nightclub in Vancouver, it's a thing in London. It looked like maybe they'd rented out the front of it, but when we got around to the back, it's just under some extensive repairs. We saw where the homeless live in London on our bus ride home, got to see an upside-down horse sculpture, and the way they park just anywhere, any direction if they find a spot. Meanwhile, back at the hotel, Mary's immediately on a phone call. To who? This guy. The next morning, the bus ride to the British Museum included a glance at the ever-present London Eye, and a chance to walk by the world's very first YMCA. Then we were there. The Gershwin lyric was wrong. The British Museum had not lost its charm. We were about to see what the Romans had left behind in jolly old England, and maybe some stuff that they borrowed from the colonies. And a statue or 5 of Augustus. He liked his face to be known in his colonies. These miniature statues are from about 100 AD. This woman represents autumn and is from about 10 AD. The portland vase was made in Rome about 5 to 15 AD. The scene represents Prince Paris of Troy judging a beauty contest. The Warren Cup, made in Rome about the same time, represents 2 men having sex with the servant looking on. It is one of the museum's most expensive acquisitions. The Brits picked up this statue from about 450 BC on one of their adventures in Cyprus. It represents a man of great wealth. On one of their other Mideast excursions, they managed to pick up the tomb of Jericho. Not to be outdone, they also stopped by Easter Island, but the people there want it back. Negotiations are ongoing. They also managed to get hold of the Rosetta Stone. Keen observers will note the sacred hieroglyphics at the top, the middle section with the commoners' language, which was known as Demotic, and the bottom official government language of Greek. But it's all Greek to me. And in fact to the British as well, because they reconstructed this Greek facade. They picked up this knick-knack on one of their Mideast sojourns. Mary was thinking of taking a page out of their book by maybe bringing back these columns for our house. Or maybe this Egyptian door that also doubles as a book. I wasn't too interested in this 12th century watch, though. I am now ready to hear your confession.
You mean how you want it back out?
Perhaps she'd have better luck with chess, a game that was invented in medieval times to teach knights about strategy. It was also played by men and women as a means of flirtation. The church disallowed their members until about the year 1200 because of this.
Shall we meet in the book room at the British Library?
Well, maybe, but this isn't the book room. This is just a random room that had an awful lot of books in it. This is the reading room, so shh. Yes, hundreds, no, thousands of books here, just lining every possible corner of every possible wall. And that's tricky because the room is round. And look at this beautiful domed ceiling. We must remain quiet while we're in the reading room. That is, until some clown drops his camera. Shh! A walk past the Warhammer store, a quick bus ride back to the hotel, and the next morning, it was off to the National Gallery at Trafalgar Square. Lines and everything. But they had me at free admission. They seemed to have a theme going on with executions seem to be the order of the day. First we see Lady Jane Grey being executed. Napoleon III installed Maximilian as Emperor of Mexico, but the Mexicans didn't like it, so out with him. And this looks like it could be an execution, but it's the drawing of the lottery in Rome about 1735. The building itself is absolutely beautiful. The ceilings are especially impressive. Let's see if I can not drop the camera this time. They then got into a series of religious paintings, starting with the Adoration of the Shepherds by Guido Reni from about 1600. They also had his Coronation of Mary painting from the same period, and a few just random religious pictures. But it didn't take them long to get back into the death and destruction with a picture of a stoning. And always looking for the positive spin, here's St. Michael triumphs over the devil. Gerrit von Hornthurst chose to show St. Sebastian with only minimal blood from his wounds. This picture, called Dead Soldier, is by that famous painter, Anonymous. Abraham Blomart wasn't happy with just death and destruction. He had to throw in a little bit of incest, too. Here we see Lot's daughters seducing him after he turned his wife into a pillar of salt. But on to the next gallery, I say. Here we see the Comte de Vaudeville surveying a map of the Dominican Republic. His father had appointed him governor there. Political nepotism was alive back in the 1700s. Next was a guessing contest. Which one is St. Mary? There was an entire gallery devoted to portraits of Charles I, who proclaimed himself to have united England. And they had a room devoted to art critics who could stand in front of one painting for as long as they wanted to admire all the details. Here they are now. Then a spot of lunch at the National Gallery Cafe, out the door, and lo and behold, the Canadian High Commission. Well, with a bit of time on our hands, we hopped on board a bus to see what we could find. And what we found was the Old Bailey neighborhood, with some really cool architecture. And Old Bailey itself, a building that has seen its fair share of miscreants through its doors. I wonder if these guys are lawyers or clients. Meanwhile, the landed gentry didn't have to bother with that kind of neighborhood. They had their very own royal court. time for a little bit of tea and then off to Ronnie Scott's to catch Nigel Kennedy. Photos and videos aren't allowed, so you'll just have to catch the next flight to London and check out their schedule online. Meanwhile, we had places to go, and it might be a long way to Tipperary, but it's an even longer way to Spain.